So BGC, I sort of have a love-hate relationship with BGC. When I first came to the Philippines, I came to Mactan, Newtown in 2022. I almost got a unit there for 30 days on Airbnb. And I was supposed to meet a girl, and she said, "I love you," before I ever met her. So I backed off of that completely and didn't meet her. Then I went to Cebu City Central, and well, it was nice. Had a decent grocery store, had the Ayala terraces, etc. I wasn't sold on the Philippines at all. I would have moved back to America had that been all that the Philippines had to offer at that moment. Then I flew to Makati. In Makati, I stayed at air residences, maybe on like the 40-something floor. And I was like, oh, okay. It had a really, really nice like New York City style view and a little fake balcony. I met my first Filipina that I ever met, that I had been speaking with when I was in America. Hung out with her for a couple of days, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I could probably live in an area like this. Then I ended up just hearing about BGC a lot. I had a room at the air residences for, I don't know, maybe 4 days or 3 days or 5 days or whatever it was. And so I took a Grab, our Uber, into BGC. And when I got to BGC, I think I walked High Street and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I kind of get what the hype's about, but I think I just like walked High Street and then got back in a Grab and went back or whatever. And then I said, well, let me get an Airbnb here so I can really get a feel for this, because people were talking about BGC in 2022. This is when it was still quarantine time. There wasn't really a lot of foreigners here, certainly not a lot of young foreigners. There was some older dudes you'd see wandering around, and there was like one vlogger here that was kind of famous. But anyway, so I got an Airbnb at One Uptown Residences. And I remember waking up that first night and really thinking, wow, this is like really, really, it was a very well decorated, like it probably had a owner that had a few dollars or something. It wasn't really minimally like IKEA decorated. And I woke up that morning and I felt so comfortable. I said, I'm gonna move to this building. I was paying like $40 a night or something for the condo. And I said, I wonder what the real price is. So I went down to the front desk, and to my surprise, that at this point the dollar was at like 59.6 or something against the peso. So the dollar was very strong. And I went down to the front desk and said, is there any realtors that have long-term listings here, 6 month, a year lease, whatever? Because I always knew that Airbnbs are generally about 2.2 to 2.5 times the price, which they should be, because you're getting it for a night or two and your electricity is included. So anyways, to my surprise, it was 30,000 pesos for most of the listings, which was $500 exactly at that point. So I ended up, I almost rented a really badly furnished or halfway furnished unit on a low floor facing the Grand Hyatt. And it was a big hassle and all kinds of problems, and they were late and this and that. And then I just completely walked from that deal. And then I found a unit on a higher floor directly facing the fire fountains, furnished well, with a Filipina American owner that was a nurse in New York City or whatever the deal was, that owned some properties with her sister. And I rented that for $30,000 and signed a 1-year lease. And I really, really thought, this is the place where you can make a nice transition into the Philippines as a foreigner that lived a very middle-class lifestyle in Los Angeles and Las Vegas my whole life. So I definitely recognized BGC's value right from the jump as a newbie to the Philippines that had been here like not even a week at this point. I came out here on a quote unquote discovery trip to just see if I could possibly live here. And I wasn't really impressed until I saw Makati and BGC. As a city guy that's always lived in the city, I'm not from the Midwest, I'm not from the country. I've always lived on the East Coast or West Coast or desert or whatever. So I lived at one Uptown Residences for a while. I ended up getting a place in Boracay. I came back and got a place at the Gramercy in Poblacion, Makati. And I have lived in Parañaque and Mandaluyong as well. So I really got bored with BGC after a while, ended up in Boracay, and then wanted to experience more of the real Philippines that you'll get in a place like a Poblacion, Makati, or the other two that I mentioned, where you have jeeps, you have street food, you have beggars, you have the good and bad elements that you are not exposed to when you're in the bubble that we call BGC. So in BGC, there is no street food, there is no beggars, there is no jeeps. Jeeps can ride on the perimeter, you get a little street food at Market, but outside of that, you're completely insulated. There's no working girls, there's no guys selling peanuts on the street, there's nobody approaching you trying to sell you fake items or real, whatever. No hustlers really. It's basically a completely polished and controlled little corner of Taguig, Metro Manila, Philippines. There's private security everywhere, always watching you. There's police everywhere. It's mainly working class Filipinos, foreigners, Chinese people, whatever. It's not really what you're going to get anywhere outside of BGC. Even when you just cross over into Taguig, 10 feet away, totally different world. You know what I mean? This is like all skyscrapers, no regular housing, excellent food, high prices at every restaurant generally outside of like Market, from Mitsukoshi to Uptown to SM Aura, High Street, etc. Sometimes more than America. And it's nice, you know what I mean, if you can afford it and you're at a time in your life where you're not a big party guy. If you're a big party guy, I suggest Makati, P. Burgos, Buccaneers, Club Royal, stuff like that. But if you're kind of out of that phase in your life and you have a girlfriend or you're not really looking or you want to just meet girls at Starbucks and, off the dating sites or in person or whatever, BGC can be a really good place. I've been here off and on for 3 years now, and I got to admit something that probably a lot of other people have realized. Now, if you're like over 60, I don't think you should live anywhere but BGC unless you build a house in the province or, you've got to be on the beach or whatever, then God bless you. But BGC has St. Luke's Hospital, and the private side of that hospital, I would say, is about as good as the Philippines hospital is going to get. And I think for a lot of older guys, that's a major concern. But what I have realized now, living in BGC for 3 years off and on, obviously I've just spent 4 months in America, I've lived in Parañaque, Mandaluyong, Poblacion, whatever, but I've always been in and out of BGC or living in BGC. I have actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 apartments here, as I tend to gift my deposits and break my leases early. That's why I'm so glad I haven't bought a place here, and also buying doesn't really make sense compared to the rent ratio right now. But what I must say about BGC is that it feels a bit sterile and maybe a bit too controlled if you're looking to live a wild life. Dare I say a bit boring. It's a good boring. It's a great boring for a 48-year-old that doesn't drink with a girlfriend, but boring nonetheless. And this is not shitting on BGC. There is no place better than BGC and, the Rockwells and stuff like that. If you're looking for luxury and amenities, infinity pools, gyms, saunas, great 5-star restaurants, it's tremendous. But I must say, it's a bit boring. You can take that how you want. It's a 30-minute walkable city. You'll always be safe. There's not a lot of danger and unpredictability here. Basically consists of a lot of coffee shops, restaurant, gyms, malls, and beautiful landscape like you're seeing outside the window of amazing glass skyscrapers. But if you're looking for excitement and you're a younger guy that drinks alcohol, that's going to stay single and stuff, you might want to try Makati, you might want to try Cebu, you might want to try Ortigas, Mandaluyong, Parañaque, Pasay, Pasig, Quezon City. There may be a bit more of a real Philippines and an unpredictability factor there. With that being said, for me, you know, it's hard to say where my future lies in the Philippines. You know, I go back and forth with it. I really, really think that, you know, sometimes I think BGC is the only place that I can live. It's just so walkable. You can get out, you can walk every morning, you can, you know, you're not in a place where you got to walk through a bad area or you're kind of just removed from everything and there's, you know, no coffee shops within a mile or whatever. But at the same time, sometimes you want to break out of the bubble that we call BGC. And while I suggest this as a landing pad, whether it's for a week or a year when you get to the Philippines, I also have to be honest with you guys and keep it real like I do on this channel and tell you that BGC is slightly boring. And anywhere could be boring to someone that gets bored easy, but I guess I just know it too well. I know every corner of every crevice of this little subsidiary of a city, and it's very, very proper. There's not a big wow factor as a foreigner that you would get in those other areas I just mentioned of Manila or a Cebu or, you know, in the province. People are very used to seeing foreigners. And while this is a very foreigner heavy place, you'll still walk outside and see 150, 200 Filipinos before you see one other foreigner. So I think it's the best place to live if you have a girlfriend and you're a bit older. But I also think that it may get a little bit old and it feels a bit controlled. I know there's a lot of people that aren't super comfortable, you know, venturing off into the province or even going to Boracay for that matter. I've noticed that a lot of people and a lot of vloggers kind of just stay in BGC, kind of like a, sort of like a stationary philosopher that is scared to leave the bubble. And, you know, rightfully so. The Philippines is really, really a place that can get a bit wild. You know what I mean? This is not Kansas, as they say. Philippines, you're generally safe. I saw some stupid article that's tried to say the Philippines is the most dangerous country. Not by a long shot. However, I've noticed a lot of vloggers kind of haven't traveled the Philippines yet, and they've been here a really long time, which I think is wild. Because the real beauty of the Philippines is the white sand beaches with the blue water that are Caribbean warmth. However, from a practical standpoint, if you're a spoiled foreigner, BGC and Makati take the cake. Cebu City Central is sufficient. I don't want to speak on everything else, but come here as a landing pad, but you might not want to live here for 20 years if you want to experience some, you know, real Philippines vibes. And you may just want to keep this as a home base. Get a little studio type here for $30K and just keep your stuff there and roam around if you're a big budgeted foreigner. But love BGC to death, love the Philippines to death. But it'll be interesting to see where my next chapter takes me. All right, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and sana all.